Hey everyone, welcome back to In Her Element. I'm your host Swati Upadhyay and I'm so glad that you're here. This episode, like some of my favorite ones, is just a conversation between you and I. Nothing formal, no filters, just honesty. So wherever you are, whether you're walking, driving, cooking, journaling, working, or just taking a few quiet minutes for yourself, I want you to take a deep breath because today we are talking about something simple but yet so powerful: dreams and kindness. How we can dream boldly but still stay soft. How we can build, rise, and still be the person who roots for others. Because the truth is, success without kindness doesn't feel like success. And dreams without compassion lose their purpose. So when I first started In Her Element, I didn't have like a grand vision board or a 5 year plan. I just wanted to create a safe corner of the internet, a place where women could feel seen. They don't have to be perfect, they don't have to be polished, just seen. Because I know how lonely it can get when you're doing everything right, working hard, showing up, and still wondering if anyone really understands your story. But you know what I have realized? When we tell our stories honestly, we make space for others to do the same. And that's how community begins. And now, this dream, this podcast, it's bigger than me. It's not just a podcast anymore. I feel like it's a movement, of sorts, one that's rooted in empathy, curiosity, and truth. And through my work, as a research scientist in environmental justice and policy, I have learned that kindness and justice, they are not opposites. They are truly what you call partners, because justice gives kindness direction and kindness gives justice its heart. And as Desmond Tutu once said, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. And I think kindness, when it's paired with courage, is what breaks that neutrality. It turns the compassion that we have within us into action. Now, moving on to what is the most, integral part of this conversation: dreams. I think I owe a lot of my dreams and my softness to the women who have shaped me. And when that comes into picture, the first person I can think of is my mom. She is this very quiet force who truly leads with grace. She's the one who has taught me that kindness isn't about being agreeable, it's just about being intentional. She always tells me, be firm, but be fair. And on the other side, who was also my very big inspiration, is my little sister. She's a go getter. She is that kind of person who can make things happen. Like, she's proved that when you believe in yourself enough, the universe starts rearranging things in your favor. And I have truly, I mean, she doesn't realize it, but I've learned it from her. And of course, my mentors, through school, through med school, through my master's, and now in my PhD. They are the ones who've reminded me to keep going when I couldn't see where I was heading. And I remember one of my mentors when I was doing my master's told me that, Swati, your voice doesn't have to fill the room. It just has to hold truth. And I think that changed everything for me. Sometimes it's not even people close to us who shift our paths. It's these brief encounters also that, kind of change the course of how you see things. I work a lot in communities and, do a lot of community based research. And I remember someone telling me that, hey, I'm not a scientist, I'm a mother. That means I notice everything. And I think that one line taught me more about advocacy than any of the classes or anything that I've attended. Because, that's what compassion is at the end of the day. Seeing the world not through power, but through presence, just being there and observing things. I think that really changes how you take this compassion forward. And when we talk about compassion, we also talk about dreams, right? And growing up, I thought that dreaming big meant you just had to climb higher. And now when I think of it, it means growing deeper. Because as I grew up, I realized that these dreams, they don't have a fixed destination. They're just living and breathing things and growing with you because they stretch with time, they bend with the life that we have, and they also humble you, but in the best ways possible. And I think I'm also going to tell you some lessons that I've learned along the way. And one of those lessons, and let's name it as lesson one, is you can't outgrow humility. Because no matter where you go, just stay grounded in your roots, because we don't realize it enough, but we carry generations of strength in us from our mothers, our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, women before us, before them. And I think remembering that keeps us grateful, where we are through the sacrifices and through the journey of these women who came before us. That definitely matters. Lesson number two would be kindness doesn't slow you down. You know, the world has made us believe that if you're kind, you can't be ambitious. And if you're ambitious, you can't be kind. That, like kindness and ambition cannot coexist. But that's a huge lie, because kindness makes you and keeps you human when success can start to dehumanize you. And hence, you need to make sure that kindness and ambition coexist. Lesson number three, that is listening is leadership. You don't always need to have answers for everything as a leader. Sometimes listening, just really being a great listener, changes more than what speaking ever could. And lesson number four is okay to change your dreams. We change. What mattered at 25 might not matter at 35. And that's why it's okay for dreams to change, because that's growth and that should never be considered as a failure. As life goes, where it leads you, your dreams can adapt, change, and bend and still make you and take you where you need to be. So I think that way is how we grow as a human being. Can we be honest for a second? In at least, what I had seen growing up, the world often pits women against each other. We have seen growing up culturally in India, you'll be pit against your mother in law, or you'll be pit against a a sister-in-law or somebody or a friend, a colleague. And we are taught that there's only one seat at the table and we should fight for it. But now imagine that if instead of fighting for that one seat, we build a bigger table, we get everybody on board. Obviously it's not possible, and there are people are in different seasons of life. But I think I have learned that when one woman wins, it's not a loss for you. It's proof that it's possible, and her success can be your roadmap. She doesn't have to be a rival. I've had moments too, moments where I've felt like envy or self doubt, or that tiny voice that I think majority of us have felt like, hey, you're falling behind. But you know what? That's okay, because we all have it. And every time I think that voice shows up, try to, now at least, I try to shift it to gratitude. I ask myself, what can I learn from this other person's journey? Because kindness, real kindness, doesn't mean you never feel jealousy. It means that you don't let it turn into bitterness. Like, you can still applaud for the other woman, learn from her, and carve your own path in your own way and celebrate it. And let's be honest, yes, jealousy will exist. We are humans, and there are these aspects which will come in. But it is very much in our own control to to not turn jealousy into bitterness. And that's what I want to say by this fact, you know, because like Brené Brown, and I think she's one of my favorite authors by now, says that connection doesn't require something big, it only requires authenticity. And if you're authentic, then you will definitely reach where you have to. And I also feel authenticity thrives where judgment ends. So that, I think, is a very important lesson in its all time. Also, like, one of the reasons why I created this space, and I was craving the space as well. I've had the space, but what I think most women are craving right now is safe space. And I think this is one of the reasons why this podcast was created, because I have experienced this growing up, through my friends, through the people I've worked with. So, and these spaces where they can actually exhale, where they can be their imperfect, messy, figuring it out versions of themselves and still be loved for it. And this a safe space, like I said, doesn't have to be a room. It can just be a friendship. It could be a team. It could be this, a podcast community. It's because it's safe space. It's like a friend who listens without trying to fix you. It's a colleague who can say that, hey, it's okay, take your time. And it's also the community like this that reminds you that you don't have to be perfect to just be a part of this. Because that's what I want in her element to be a soft landing for your big dreams. A place, where other women listen, lift, and lead together. Not in competition, but just to form that warm connection. Because when we feel safe, we open up. And when we open up, we create. And when we create together, we can shift worlds. Nothing is more powerful than that. Another thing that I have been thinking about lately, and I know I've lost some friendships to this, and hence I thought it was really important to talk about it. As women, we sometimes let go of friendship too easily. And it's not because we stop caring, but sometimes because life gets busy. Or, someone said something that hurt, or maybe pride or ego stepped in, where we could have used a little grace. But here's the real truth, sometimes people are just in different seasons of their life, and those seasons can make them act differently. They could seem distant or harder to reach, but that doesn't always mean that they've stopped loving you. We have all misread a silence before, haven't we? Sometimes the friend who seems unavailable, it's just overwhelmed, not uncaring. Sometimes she's just protecting her peace, not rejecting you. So if there's a friendship that weighs on your heart, reach out, send that message, start that conversation. Because real sisterhood isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. It's about saying, I know we haven't talked in a while, but I still care. And as women, let's be better allies. Let's choose curiosity over assumptions, grace over gossip, and connection over ego. Because I think when women heal together, we don't just mend these friendships, we actually strengthen the entire fabric of our communities. And it could be a ripple effect. Right. And sometimes I know it's harder to do with the time that's passed, or, something things might have been said in the heat of the moment. But I personally feel once you've forged a friendship, deep down, there is a lot of love to give and a lot of love to receive. And never take that for granted, because you never know. So, just a small request, if you've been waiting on this opportunity or you've been thinking of it, do reach out and, get that friendship back together. You never know, this time it could be more mature and, have a better friendship. And moving on, in my work with policy, I've seen this over and over again that big changes, they start very small. It could be one voice, it could be one moment of kindness, it could be one person who dares to listen. And every time you send an encouraging message or you check in on a friend or say, I'm proud of you, you're actually planting a seed of safety in someone's heart. Here's the thing, those seeds, they grow in silence. You might never see their flowers, but they will bloom. So keep planting them, keep showing up in quiet ways for other women in your life, because the ripple always comes back. And maybe we can all promise together this week, if you're listening to the podcast, to, you know, um, tell one woman that, hey, I see you and I'm proud of you. Or listen to someone without planning your responses. Or give yourself and others a little more grace. And maybe write down one dream that's been sitting very quietly in your heart for a while. The ones that you've been too scared to name, because naming it is the first step towards living that dream. And as I wrap today's episode, I want to leave you with something that I have been learning. The world doesn't change because of big moments. It changes through the accumulation of small and intentional ones. So, through kindness that costs nothing, through courage that looks like listening, through the women who remind each other that you are enough. So, keep dreaming, my friend. Keep building those safe spaces at work, at home, in your friendships, where women can rise together. Because when women feel safe, they don't compete, they collaborate, they lift, they lead, and they create a world that is kinder, fairer, and more hopeful than the one that we have inherited. And if you've been listening to In Her Element, and if today's episode touched something in you, share it with a friend. Send it to a woman who needs to hear that her dreams matter. And if you can, tell someone that you're safe with me. Until next time, keep dreaming boldly, loving gently, and let kindness be your legacy. Bye.